You're listening to an audiobook from Nova&Me. We hope you enjoy the story. The university campus was even louder than usual today. And of course, the reason was none other than me, Hong Joshua, a final-year medical student and the heir of the illustrious Hong family. I stood in the middle of a tightly packed circle, under the curious and amused gazes of hundreds of students, trying my best to keep a calm expression. Yet deep inside, a fire of irritation was quietly burning. The 100th time already, in front of me, amidst the whispers, the snapping of phone cameras, and bursts of giggles, Docheom was kneeling on one knee on the tiled courtyard floor. He, a second-year student with such an ordinary appearance that he was easily forgotten, messy black hair, timid eyes, and a bouquet of bright red roses that looked absurd in his hands. That bouquet seemed to expose his innocence, his foolishness, in a place like this. I put on my usual polite smile, the one countless girls at school called sweet. Though in truth it was nothing more than a mask for utter indifference. My eyes shifted slightly toward Mingyu, my childhood friend standing right beside me. Mingyu, towering in height and dressed in carefully chosen designer clothes, only smirked teasingly, his eyes roaming the crowd as if he were enjoying a comedy show. He nudged my shoulder lightly, signaling, "Look, here comes the good part, Joshua." The noise around us kept growing louder, as if Docheom and I were the main performers in some outdoor circus. I caught fragments of the crowd's chatter. Is it Docheom again? That's his 100th confession already. So persistent, but Joshua's straight. Isn't he embarrassed? Prejudice? Of course, I am Hong Joshua, heir to a prestigious family, flawless in appearance, and most importantly, straight. Homosexual love, to me, had always been a distant concept, even something laughable, all the more so when the one confessing was someone like him, a boy with no friends. Nothing remarkable, like a ghost wandering this campus. He had clung to me for 3 years, and every appearance of his meant I was once again turned into a spectacle before everyone. Docheom's face flushed crimson with embarrassment, yet he stubbornly lifted his head to look at me. He began to speak, his voice slightly trembling but trying to sound earnest. "Joshua, I know you'll reject me, but I still want to say." I sighed inwardly. The same hollow words again? I had grown utterly tired of hearing them. I only wanted to end this farce as quickly as possible. Maybe this is the last time I'll get to say it. I love you. His final words rang out unexpectedly, drowned beneath the crowd's roaring laughter and Mingyu's teasing voice. Mingyu burst out laughing, clapping my shoulder. "Hear that, Joshua? He says it's the last time." I merely frowned, thinking to myself, all the better. I've been waiting 3 years for this. I paid no attention to the true meaning of his words. To me, it was nothing more than another scene in the cheap play he had staged to make himself look pitiful. Annoyance boiled over inside me. I looked at him, my gaze turning icy, a flash of contempt flickering across. "Stand up, Docheom. This isn't funny." My voice rang cold and firm, devoid of any feeling. "And don't repeat those meaningless words again." I turned my back and walked away, Mingyu following close behind with mocking laughter, leaving Docheom still kneeling there, his face pale, surrounded by sneers and prying eyes. I didn't bother to look back. There would be no confession number 101. I swore it. From that day on, I never saw him again. All the better. At least he had kept the promise he made. Yet deep inside, a strange emptiness flickered within me. My life simply returned to its usual course, endless classes, nights of revelry with Mingyu and our friends, and girls who came and went like a dull, unchanging cycle. One day, on my way to the library, I stumbled upon a scene that made me freeze in place. Docheom. He was sitting on a stone bench behind the school garden, a place rarely visited, smiling brightly, not the awkward, timid smile he always wore when facing me, but a genuine smile, radiant and full of life, like a sunflower basking in the sun. And beside him sat a stranger, a man who looked a little older than us, handsome, with that unexplainable, rugged bad boy charm. He was gently ruffling Docheom's hair, his eyes filled with tenderness. Suddenly, an uncomfortable feeling rose in my chest, not because I cared about Docheom. No, certainly not. It was just that sight irritated me. That weak, timid Docheon could smile like that? And with another man? I quickly pulled out my phone, snapped a picture, and without hesitation, dropped it into our medical faculty group chat, where enough eyes and idle gossipers like Mingyu would make sure it spread. Within minutes, rumors blazed across campus like wildfire. Docheon has a sugar daddy. And just like that, Docheon became Sabong's newest joke. From someone already isolated, he was now openly subjected to ridicule and mental torment. Whispers, scornful looks, mocking words clung to him everywhere. I often saw him wandering alone, head hung low, thin shoulders shrinking inward. Sometimes bullies blocked his way, shoving him down, snatching his books, or spitting out cruel remarks. I, of course, was always nearby because I wanted to see him like that. He deserved it, and yet, when I saw him cornered, trembling, his frail body shaking, his eyes red and brimming with unshed tears, unable to utter a word in defense, I should have felt satisfied. But I didn't. Instead, something strange pricked at my chest. A faint sting, a flicker of discomfort, even a small urge to protect him. I immediately shoved the feeling away and turned my back on him. Once again, as I walked down the hallway with a stack of books in my arms, I saw Docheon pinned against the locker by a group of thugs. They laughed loudly, throwing empty water bottles at him. "Hey, weak little queer, where's your sugar daddy now? Why isn't he here to save you?" One sneered, spitting out venom. "Yeah, maybe he dumped you already. No wonder you look so pathetic," another mocked, kicking the books out of Docheon's hands. Docheon only bowed his head, his thin shoulders trembling, too afraid to respond. He saw me, but said nothing, and I couldn't understand why he didn't ask me for help. If that's the case, then fine. I ignored him and walked straight past as if I'd seen nothing. Another time, in the cafeteria, Docheon was eating alone when a group of girls passed by. One of them flipped his tray of food onto him. "Disgusting. You still dare to eat here? What, your sugar daddy doesn't even give you enough money for a proper meal?" she sneered. Before walking off with her friends, Docheon sat there, clothes stained with food, staring blankly at the floor. For some reason, anger welled up inside me. Why wouldn't he fight back? How could he endure something like this? Mingyu, my womanizing best friend, sometimes noticed the odd shift in my behavior. He smirked, patting my shoulder. "Hey, Joshua, you're caring a little too much about that kid. Don't tell me our great heir has actually fallen for someone." I shot him a sharp, cold glare and turned away. Fallen? Ridiculous. I just found his weakness irritating. But the discomfort in my chest only grew heavier, like a boulder pressing down on me. Then one evening, after class, I passed by the school rooftop. I heard faint sobs. It was Docheon. He sat curled up in a corner, hugging his knees, face buried as he cried, not the muffled whimpers I'd heard before, but broken, desperate sobs, like the whole world had collapsed on him. The fading sunlight painted his thin back in gold, making him look so small, so fragile, like a wounded bird with broken wings. In that moment, an unfamiliar feeling washed over me, drowning me. It felt as if I had caused this. Every mocking word, every cruel stare, every time he was bullied, all of it began with that picture and rumor I had spread. The cold, arrogant facade I'd built cracked, revealing a heart that trembled. Just then, two thugs appeared, the same ones from before, grinning wickedly as they closed in. "Oh, Docheon, hiding up here to cry again? Looking for a new sugar daddy?" One taunted with scorn. My blood boiled. I didn't know why. Maybe guilt. Maybe because for the first time in my life I felt I'd truly done something horribly wrong. I snapped. Without thinking, I lunged forward and punched the one who spoke. "Shut your mouth," I roared, my voice hoarse. They were caught off guard, too shocked to react. I didn't stop. My fists and kicks landed mercilessly, fury pouring out of me like hellfire, burning away the indifference I had clung to for years. Mingyu appeared out of nowhere, watching from a distance. His eyes widened in shock, then shifted to confusion as he stared at me. He knew I was acting completely out of character. Hong Joshua, the arrogant, disdainful heir, had suddenly become Docheon's defender. Inside me, everything was breaking apart. That rooftop fight felt like fire melting the ice in my chest. I didn't even know what I was doing anymore. I just knew I couldn't stand there and let him be humiliated again. The two bullies, after taking enough of my blows, fled clutching their faces. I stood there, breath ragged, fists trembling with anger. Docheon still sat curled in the corner, swollen eyes staring at me, filled with shock, disbelief, and a hint of fear. I clenched my fists tighter, and after a moment's hesitation, I turned and walked away. A few days later, things hadn't gotten any better. My anger hadn't subsided, and the image of Do-cheong crying on the rooftop kept replaying in my head. Haunting me, I started watching him more often, and though he was still being harassed, it now seemed more discreet. One morning, during a joint lecture between our two departments, the professor was lecturing passionately when a burst of giggles came from the back of the class. I didn't even need to look to know what was happening. Do-cheong, sitting in the last row, was surrounded by 3 or 4 guys. One scribbled all over his book, while another dragged his backpack across the floor, spilling his things. "Hey, Do-cheong, you look pathetic. Yeah, why don't you cry and beg? Maybe someone will pity you and toss you a few coins." Their sharp, cruel words pierced my ears. I looked at Do-cheong. His head was bowed low, his thin shoulders trembling, his fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. That weakness, that submission, once again ignited the fury inside me. I didn't know if it was because I hated the bullies, or because I had already begun to care for him. The professor seemed oblivious, or perhaps deliberately ignored it. The rest of the class only whispered and laughed. I suddenly felt suffocated, slamming my pen down hard on the desk. I stood up, all eyes turned to me. Without hesitation, I strode toward Do-cheong. The 3 bullies faltered when they saw me. After all, I was Hong Joshua, the heir no one dared to provoke. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" My voice was low and icy, my gaze sharp enough to cut. One of them stammered, We were just joking." "Joking?" I scoffed. "Then how about I joke with you?" Snatching the vandalized book from Do-cheong's desk, I hurled it straight at the leader's face. "Now get lost." The 3 of them panicked, scrambling to gather their things before bolting from the room. A heavy silence followed, with dozens of eyes pinned on us. I turned back to him. Do-cheong sat there, still staring at the floor, saying nothing. I waited for a thank you, a glance, any reaction at all, but there was nothing, only that suffocating silence. My irritation spiked. What the hell had I just done for him? Why was he like this? Finally, when he realized I was still standing there, Do-cheong slowly lifted his head. His eyes were swollen and red, but he didn't meet my gaze. Instead, he looked down again and whispered, barely audible, "Thank you." That was it, a clipped, emotionless thank you, without even looking at me. Then he turned away, quietly packing his things, and walked out of the classroom. I froze. Anger surged through me, burning hot in my chest. What the hell was that? I had just saved him, and that was how he treated me? Being dismissed after tearing down my own walls to help him, it drove me insane. "Hey, stop right there," I barked, storming after him. I grabbed his wrist and yanked him back. His body staggered, nearly collapsing, but instead of resisting, Do-cheong suddenly went limp, collapsing into me. I caught him just in time. His skin burned against mine, frighteningly hot. His face was ghostly pale, his lips tinged blue. Panic, that was the first thing that shot through me. I had never seen him this fragile. I held him tightly, feeling the faint, uneven breaths against my neck. I rushed him to my family's hospital, a place I had long been accustomed to, the sharp scent of disinfectant, the clattering of gurneys echoing through the halls. But this time was different. I wasn't here to visit a patient. I was here with someone I had just saved, someone I was angry with, someone I couldn't understand. Hours dragged by in suffocating silence. I sat in the cold, sterile corridor, my eyes fixed on the emergency room door, my chest burning as though fire had taken root inside me. Mingyu appeared out of nowhere. As he always did, he looked at me, his gaze complicated, unreadable. He didn't say a word. At last, the doctor stepped out. His face carried a weight I had never seen before. "Joshua," he began slowly. "This boy, he's suffering from a terminal illness." Each word fell like a hammer to my skull. The world around me blurred. Sounds faded into nothing. I heard, yet I could not comprehend. "He has at most 3 months left to live." 3 months. 3 months? My world collapsed in an instant. The ground beneath me seemed to tilt violently. I turned to Mingyu, and he was as stunned as I was. The doctor went on, something about a rare condition, about the absence of any treatment, but I couldn't take in a single word. My mind echoed with just one sentence, a sentence I had dismissed as a joke, ridiculed, trampled on. Maybe this is the last time I'll get to say, "I love you." That voice now clung to me like a curse. ripping through my chest with a pain so sharp I could barely breathe. The last time, everything became cruelly, mercilessly clear. I had humiliated him, mocked him, looked down on his love, and now he was leaving. Every insult, every act of cruelty I had inflicted, turned back on me like knives sinking deep into my own heart. Guilt consumed me, drowning me in an ocean of torment. I wanted to scream, to rewind time, to do anything, anything, to change it, but it was too late. From that day on, the Hong Joshua of the past ceased to exist. In his place, someone else emerged, someone entirely different. I changed. I stopped going to bars. I stopped wasting myself in meaningless pleasures. My entire focus shifted onto Docheom. I begged my family for permission to care for him. I began to stay by Docheom's side on purpose. I took him out to eat dishes he had never once tried. His eyes widened with surprise and delight, and then he whispered, "This is really good. I've never eaten something like this before." Such simple words, yet they cut into my heart like a blade. What kind of life had he lived, that even the smallest pleasures were foreign to him? We walked together through the park, watching the rows of trees sway and the birds soar freely above us. Sitting on a bench facing the lake, he murmured, his gaze far away, "It's so beautiful, if only time could stop right here." My chest tightened, and I gripped his hand as if that alone could keep him from slipping away. I began taking photos of those fleeting moments, the rare smile on his face when he tasted ice cream, the way his eyes sparkled when he saw an unusual flower. Each time I raised my phone, he grew shy. "Why are you taking pictures of me? There's nothing worth capturing." His voice was so small, so unsure. Those words only made me more determined to preserve everything, as though I were holding on to the final breaths of time itself. One afternoon, as we lay on the grass beneath the shade of an ancient tree, Docheom rested his head on my shoulder and closed his eyes. "Today, I'm really happy." Joshua hung, he whispered, weak but content. Such a simple sentence, yet it filled me with both overwhelming joy and suffocating fear. Was every moment of happiness we shared nothing more than a quiet farewell? I devoted myself to caring for him, bringing medicine to his home, reminding him to eat, even cooking simple dishes he liked with my own hands. But I could see him growing thinner, paler with each passing day. Each time he coughed, racked by pain, it tore at my chest, a cruel reminder of the short 3 months we had left. Mingyu remained nearby, silent, watchful, until one day, he came to me, his expression grave. "Joshua," he said, voice low, "I looked into that man you mentioned, the one with Docheom that day." My heart skipped. Who was he? "That was Wanwu, Docheom's older brother," Mingyu replied, his eyes heavy with sympathy. "He just returned from studying abroad in the US that day. Was their first reunion after years apart." The world crumbled around me. Wanwu, his brother. It was the truth, and I, because of my narrow-minded prejudice, my arrogance, my recklessness, had destroyed Docheom's reputation with my own hands, pushing him into the abyss of public humiliation and cruelty. Regret, a bitter, merciless regret, tore me apart. What had I done? I had wounded someone who already had so little time left. The feelings I now held for him were no longer pity, no longer the burden of guilt I carried as his tormentor. Somewhere along the way, they had transformed into something else, something deeper. Real love, genuine, unshakable love, growing stronger each day, tangled with pain and remorse. I remembered the first genuine smile I had seen from him, sitting beside Wanwu. I remembered his timid, fragile eyes when he was bullied. I remembered that faint, emotionless, "Thank you." And now I understood, it wasn't indifference. It was the exhaustion of someone who had grown too tired of life itself. I began to panic at the thought of losing him. 3 months. 3 months was far too short. Time slipped through my fingers too quickly. I wanted to hold on to every second, every minute, to do everything I could to make him happy. I wanted to tell him that I loved him, that I was sorry, but would there still be time? Would he accept it? The fear of losing Docheom wrapped around me, cold and merciless, sinking deep into my bones. Time, cruel and relentless, passed even faster than I expected. The warm days of summer slowly gave way to the biting chill of late autumn. Leaves turned color and fell, each one a painful reminder that the end was drawing near. One evening, as the sunset dyed the sky crimson, I took Docheom to a small hill on the edge of the city, a place where we could watch the sun sink in its full glory. He had once looked at me with yearning in his eyes, silently wishing to see it. I knew this would be the last time I could walk beside him. Deep down, I knew. Docheon leaned against my shoulder, his faint breath brushing against my neck. The autumn breeze slipped through my hair, cold and sharp, but he whispered that he wasn't cold. I had wrapped him carefully in the thickest sweater I could find. His face, bathed in the golden-orange glow of the sunset, looked less pale, almost touched with warmth. His eyelids lowered, and a soft, peaceful smile curved his lips. "It's so beautiful, Joshua," he whispered, his voice so faint I had to lean close to hear. I've never seen a sunset this beautiful before. Thank you." My chest tightened. Sweetness and pain flooded me all at once. I held him closer, terrified that if I loosened my grip, he would vanish into the twilight. His body shifted slightly, as though finding a more comfortable spot on my shoulder. His breathing grew steady, then lighter, until it was almost weightless. That smile never faded. He was drifting into sleep. A calm, gentle sleep, free from pain, free from fear. I waited for the sun to disappear, waited for the sky to turn dark, and waited. "Docheom, hey, Docheom." My voice trembled as I called, but no answer came. I shook his shoulder lightly. "Docheom, wake up. The sunset's gone. Let's go home." Still silence. The smile on his lips remained, serene and unwavering, but I felt it, the cold creeping into his skin, the absence of breath against my neck. My hand touched his cheek. Cold, so cold, my heart clenched, suffocating in my chest. I searched desperately for a breath, a faint heartbeat, any sign of life, but there was nothing. The sun was gone, darkness swallowed the hill, and finally, I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. Hot drops fell down my face, soaking into his soft hair. I pulled him into my arms, holding him tight, clinging to the last fragments of warmth, as if I could keep him here, as if love alone could fight against death. "Docheom, Docheom," my voice broke, raw and desperate, echoing into the night. His last words returned to me, cutting deeper than any blade. The last time I can say it. "I love you." It had come true. It was reality, cruel and merciless. I had dismissed it, ignored it, and now I was paying the price. The funeral passed in silence. Only me, Mingyu, and his family. From that day on, the cemetery became the only place I wanted to go. Every afternoon after class, I would visit Dokiam's grave. I always brought a fresh bouquet of sunflowers and laid it on the cold stone. I talked to him as if he were still alive, as if he were still listening to every word I said. "Today we had such a difficult test. You know, Docheom?" The professor asked the question I'm sure only you would have been able to answer. "I just found a new cafe with amazing drinks. If you were here, I'd take you there. I miss you. I miss you so much." My words scattered into the wind, melting into the stillness of the graveyard. I knew he couldn't hear them, but this was the only way I could feel close to him. One gloomy afternoon, I returned to visit Docheom. As I stepped into the cemetery, I saw a tall figure standing in front of his grave. It was Wanwoo, Dokiam's older brother. His broad shoulders trembled slightly as he stood there with his back to me. I said nothing, simply waited in silence. At last, Wanwoo turned. His eyes were red, though his face still carried that familiar coldness. He looked at me and sighed. "Seeing you like this, no wonder Docheon couldn't let go." Wanwoo said hoarsely, "There's something I think it's time to give to its rightful owner." He handed me a worn, yellowed notebook, a diary, Dokiam's diary. My heart pounded violently. I opened it. Each fragile page was filled with shaky handwriting. I read every word, every line, like peeling back the layers of Dokiam's soul. He had written it all, from the very first day he met me, how he was drawn to my smile, to my eyes, every confession he made, every rejection, every time he was ridiculed by others, it was all there. And then, I came across the final words, the ones that shattered me completely. "Joshua, I know you will never love me, but those 100 confessions weren't to make you love me. They were just my excuse to look at you, to stand near you, to speak to you even for a few seconds. They were my way of holding on to fleeting moments of youth, of creating something worth remembering before I disappeared." The diary slipped from my hands and fell to the ground. My world collapsed around me. "I'll step away for a while." "Joshua," Mingyu's voice broke the silence, deeper than I had ever heard it. I turned to see him standing beside me. When had he arrived? His eyes fell on the diary, then on me, carrying a look I had never seen before, understanding, and pain. He turned away, taking Wanwoo's hand, and quietly walked into the darkness, wiping away a single tear that slid down his face. For the first time, I realized Mingyu truly understood the real weight of love. I collapsed onto the cold earth, right beside Dokiam's grave. My whole body felt like it was being torn apart. Tears streamed endlessly, mixing with regret, anguish, and a love that had come too late. I pressed my face into the mound of soil, as though I could reach him. Dochiom, I whispered, my voice breaking through sobs. For the 101st time, you don't have to say it anymore. Because I've already fallen in love with you.